She collapsed on the kitchen floor. Her 6-year-old son accidentally called the Italian mobster, not knowing he was his father. There was a sound before the fall, a delicate shatter, like glass surrendering to gravity. Then the scent of wet clay, copper, and something sweeter. Maybe cranberry juice, maybe blood. Light slanted in through the half-closed blinds, cutting the kitchen into strips of gold and shadow, and for a moment I felt suspended there, between breath and nothing. My knees buckled. The floor came too fast. Noah's voice was the first thing I lost, then the warmth of his little hand, then everything. When I came back, it wasn't with clarity, just the echo of my name being whispered by lips too small to hold that kind of panic. Mommy, then harder. Mommy. I couldn't move. My body was somewhere far away, underwater maybe. My fingers tingled, cold and distant, but I heard the phone unlock, heard his breath quicken, the beeps, the wrong name. Hello? A voice, deep, sharp, unyielding, like a blade dressed in silk. Noah's voice cracked. My mom's on the floor. She's not waking up. I think I called the wrong number. I didn't mean to. I was trying to call. He paused. My uncle. But I think I messed up. Silence. Then, what's your name, son? Noah. Another silence. He was measuring something. I could feel it, like heat on skin that wasn't mine. Where are you? I don't know. The house is white. There's a mailbox with a bird on it. And my mom's name is Amelia Hart. Please, she's not breathing right. Her face is weird. His voice trembled. He was trying so hard not to cry. Listen carefully, Noah, the man said, his tone shifting like velvet darkening in the rain. Don't hang up. Help is on the way. Stay on the line with me, okay? Noah sniffled. Okay. And then he began to describe everything. The hallway, the smell, the color of the floor. I wanted to reach for him, to say I was fine, to undo the sheer terror in his voice. But I couldn't. My lungs burned. My chest throbbed in rhythm with a heart that had grown used to silencing its pain. Years of holding too much. Years of surviving alone. Then footsteps. I didn't know if they were real. A door opening. Someone calling his name. Another voice. High-pitched. Sharp. Is she breathing? Yes, but she won't wake up. She will. You did good, Noah. Very good. That voice. Still on the phone. Not frantic. Not afraid. Powerful. Dangerous. And then sirens. Distant, but coming. Noah cried softly now. Not because he was weak, but because he didn't know what else to do with the weight in his chest. He kept saying, please, please come fast. I wanted to wake. Needed to. But something inside me knew that the door I'd shut 6 years ago had just opened itself, and someone was walking through it. Someone I'd spent a lifetime running from. Not a ghost. Not a memory. Lorenzo. His name hadn't touched my lips in years. I'd buried it with every heartbeat, every sleepless night, every time I whispered to Noah that we were safe, that no one would find us, that the life I'd built here, in this quiet town, among clay and fire and orchard air, was ours alone. But the number had stayed, one number, hidden in my phone under a name I should have deleted. And now my son, my beautiful, brave boy, had called it, reached into the past and woken the storm. The siren screamed closer. I heard doors opening, boots, voices, hands on me. The world tilted, swirled, blurred. And the last thing I remember before the dark came again was that voice, still on the phone, telling Noah, I'm coming, don't be afraid. As if he knew, as if he already belonged to us.
The voice was small, breathless, fragile in a way that made something ancient twist in my chest. I hadn't heard the name Amelia Hart in 6 years, and now it slipped from a child's mouth like a key turning in a lock I thought I'd buried with the ruins she left behind. I didn't speak at first. I couldn't. The silence between us was a void, and inside it, that name, her name. Your name is Noah? I asked, careful, low. My voice wrapped around the question like smoke curling through a broken window. Yes. A sniffle. My mom's not okay. I stood. Cold fury and something else, something far more dangerous, coiled through me. Don't hang up. I'm sending help. Already I'd tapped the screen once. A secure channel open. Trace this call. I want exact coordinates. Patch in the local emergency frequency and override it if needed. She's not waiting. A beat later, Dante's voice crackled in my ear. Got it. Northern California. Small town. Willow Creek. Of course. Amelia would choose a place with a name like that. Quiet, clean, wrapped in fog and lies. My jet was ready in under 3 minutes. The black car waited downstairs, engine low, tinted windows sealing me in. I didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just listened. She's breathing, I think, but it's weird. You're doing good, Noah, I said, softer. Stay with her. Don't let go. I'm not, he whispered. She looks broken. I closed my eyes. The weight of those words landed like a fist to the ribs. Not because they were poetic, but because I knew exactly what that looked like. I'd seen her cracked open once. On a balcony, dusk painting her collarbone, lips trembling when she said she was scared. I'd believed her, every word, and still, she left. The jet sliced through the sky, silent and fast. Every second burned through my blood like acid. I replayed the call a dozen times. The boy's voice, the trembling, her name, my name, Amelia Hart. I'd given her my soul. She'd handed it back wrapped in silence. And yet, I had never changed the number, never deleted. I'd buried her in every other way, closed the file, locked the feeling, built empires over the hollow space she left. But that number stayed. The hospital wasn't ready for. That's the thing about ghosts. They don't make appointments. They arrive. I didn't go in right away. I stood outside, coat open, breath thick in the night. The security team kept their distance. They knew better than to interrupt me when I was like this. Sharp, coiled, full of ghosts and gasoline. Through the window, I saw her, pale, still. Her hair was longer, a little darker, her mouth slightly parted, as if she'd been caught mid-confession. Machines blinked, tubes curled from her skin. I could almost hear her heartbeat from here. And then I saw him, a man, holding the boy, rocking him gently, whispering something. The kid leaned into his chest like he belonged there. Safe, known. My jaw tightened. I knew nothing about him, but I hated him instantly. His hand rested on the boy's back like he'd done it 1,000 times. And maybe he had. Maybe he tucked him in, kissed his bruises, read bedtime stories while I sat in boardrooms building kingdoms with my bare hands, unaware that I had a son learning to breathe without me. The boy turned, and I saw it. My eyes. My fucking eyes. He had Amelia's mouth, but those eyes, gray, storm-cut, restless, they were mine. I didn't move, not yet. Didn't announce myself. Just watched as they moved together. 3 bodies that looked too much like a family. The nurse leaned over and smiled. The man thanked her. Noah nodded sleepily. Amelia's body stirred, just slightly. A flutter of lashes. A murmur I couldn't hear. I stepped back into shadow. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But tomorrow, the bill would be paid. Quietly. Completely. And when she woke, she would know. I had found her. I had seen everything. And I wasn't going anywhere.
Waking felt like surfacing from a lake too deep. My lungs pulled at the air like it owed them something. The light hurt. Sterile. Cold. Too white. I blinked, but the room refused to come into focus all at once. Beeping. The soft shuffle of rubber soles. The smell of antiseptic and metal and faint lavender. Probably the soap they used to clean the machines. I didn't ask where I was. I knew. The stiffness in my arm told me there was a needle in it. The ache in my ribs told me I'd fallen hard. But it was the silence, the unbearable, clean-edged silence, that told me Noah wasn't here. And if he wasn't here, I didn't care where I was. My throat cracked as I tried to speak. A nurse noticed and came quickly, voice soft, like I was a wounded thing. Maybe I was. He's safe, she said before I could ask. Your son, he never left your side until this morning. We had to practically bribe him with chocolate and cartoons to get him to rest. My chest gave a shallow, trembling rise. Relief hurt more than fear. Then the nurse said it. The name. Casual. As if it meant nothing. Mr. Moretti said he'll check back later. The bill's already covered. Everything inside me stilled. Mr. Moretti. I could taste the name even before she finished it. Bitten steel. Sweet poison. I tried to swallow, but my mouth had gone dry. I didn't ask anything. Didn't react. Just nodded as if it made perfect sense that a man from another life would appear now, out of nowhere, and sweep in like a storm wrapped in silk. But I knew. I knew Noah had called him. It didn't matter how. The name, the contact, the number I'd buried inside my phone like a splinter beneath skin. He must have hit the wrong one. Or maybe the right one. The nurse smiled and fluffed the pillows like this was all normal. Then she stepped out and the air rushed in, heavier, sharper. I looked toward the window, and outside, a tree bent in the breeze. Somewhere beyond it, he was out there. Watching, maybe, waiting. A flutter of panic rose in my chest, wild and erratic, but I pressed it down. I couldn't fall apart. Not now. Not with Noah needing me. Not with him circling. A sound at the door made me flinch, but it was only Noah, his curls messy, cheeks flushed, holding a paper cup of juice like a trophy. He smiled when he saw me, the kind of smile that cracked ribs with its purity. "Mama," he whispered, tiptoeing to the bed. "You scared me." I opened my arms and he crawled in, pressing his warm body against mine. He smelled like sunshine and crayons and something sweeter. Vanilla, maybe. Or relief. I called someone, he whispered. I didn't mean to call that one. But he helped. He talked to me until the ambulance came. He knew your name. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. Noah looked up. Is he really a friend? I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because how do you explain to your child that the man who saved you might also be the one who could destroy everything? I was just scared, Noah said, trying to explain, as if he'd broken something precious. I held him tighter. You did everything right, baby, I whispered against his hair. You saved me. But I wasn't sure if I meant from the floor or from the past. The door opened again. Lorenzo Miller, my anchor, my friend. The one who had stood beside me when I had nothing but breath and fear. He gave a tight smile when he saw us, his hand holding a coffee cup that trembled slightly. How are the girls? He asked softly. That was his way of saying, how are you? How's your soul? How close are you to breaking again? I'm awake, I said. That's something. He nodded, came closer, set the cup down. His fingers brushed mine, kind, familiar. They didn't set my skin on fire, but they made me feel safe. You've got someone asking questions, he said quietly. Powerful, sharp suit, accent, cold eyes. Told the front desk he knew you. Said he'd wait. My heart didn't stop. It dropped. I looked at him. The man who had offered me peace every day for 6 years without asking for anything but honesty. What did you tell him? Lorenzo's jaw flexed. I told him you were resting, and that if he wanted to speak to you, he'd need to come back with something more than money. I swallowed. Hard. Noah watched us both, his eyes jumping between namesakes. 2 men, one who raised him, one who made him. The air grew heavier. Tomorrow I would face him. Tonight, I would hold my son and try to remember what breathing felt like before ghosts started paying bills in my name.
The hospital lights flickered behind the tinted glass like a pulse I could almost match. I hadn't moved in over an hour. The engine of the car idled low, the air stale with silence and unspoken decisions. She was in there, conscious now, breathing, awake. And every second that passed scraped across my ribs like a blade dragged slow. I didn't go in, not yet. I wanted her to feel the weight, not of me, but of everything I brought. Of the silence I let stretch between us all these. I could have come before, I should have, but I needed her to know that when I did come back, it would never be as it would be as a reckoning. Dante stood outside the car, pacing with the kind of patience only men like us are taught. The kind you use before a kill, before a kiss, before something you want turns into something. He leaned into the window. You're just gonna watch her sleep forever. I didn't answer. He gave a half smile. She's not gonna run. Not anymore. She already did. My voice was gravel. 6 years ago, without a word. She was pregnant. I know. He blinked. How long have you known? Long enough. My fingers curled on my knee. Too long. The boy. My boy. He was the proof I never asked for. He stood in that room like a secret turned living. I could see myself in his stance, in the tilt of his jaw, in the way he watched the world, like it was a puzzle only he could solve. It burned, knowing he had grown without me. Worse, knowing someone else had watched it happen. That man, the other Lorenzo. I'd seen his name on the visitor log. Lorenzo Miller. Funny, or fate. He stood there with his hand on Noah's back like it was his right, and maybe, in some twisted way, it was. He'd been there when I hadn't. That alone was enough to make me want to break his fingers one by one. But I didn't. Not yet. Let him feel safe. Let him believe he was the one she leaned on, the one she trusted. Let him smile when she whispered thank you. Because when I finally stepped into her orbit again, it wouldn't be to ask for a place. It would be to take it. You still want her, Dante said, not as a question. I never stopped. And if she doesn't want you back? I looked out the window, watched the curtains shift, caught a glimpse of her profile, sharp and soft, just as I remembered. No one else ever looked like, no one else ever felt like. She will. Dante snorted. I'm right. She looks fragile. She was always strong in the places no one saw. And what about the boy? I closed my eye. The pain came fast, raw, deep. I don't get to be angry at him, I said, but I get to be present, from now on. And the farmer? I finally turned my head, met Dante's eyes. He had his chance to build something. I gave him 6 years. That was more mercy than I've ever given anyone. He nodded once, then pulled the door open. Then it's time. No. I grabbed his arm. Not yet. He stared. She's awake, and I'm not ready. That was the truth. The only one that tasted honest. I could command armies, burn cities, silence men with a look. But facing her again, Amelia, after all this time, after all the things I never said, it terrified me in a way nothing else did. Because she wasn't just the woman who left. She was the woman I loved before I even knew what the word meant. And tomorrow, when I walked through that door, I wouldn't come to ask. I wouldn't come to beg. I'd come to remind her of everything we left unfinished. and to claim what had always been mine.
The air smelled like firewood and sun-warmed dirt. Home. Or what I had convinced myself was home. Willow Creek hadn't changed. The porch still creaked in the same spot. The rosemary still curled up over the railings, and the wind still tasted of silence and pine. But something inside the house felt different now. Like a storm had passed through, rearranged the molecules, left fingerprints in the air. Lorenzo Miller was quiet as he helped me out of the truck, one arm wrapped around my waist, the other steadying me like I was something fragile. I hated that. Not his help. Just the fact that I needed it. He didn't ask about him. Not yet. Noah had run ahead, eager to feed the goats or dig for worms or do whatever 6-year-olds did when the adults carried too much tension to breathe properly. I watched him disappear behind the barn, my fingers tightening around the edge of my sweater. Safe. For now. You okay to walk? Lorenzo asked, voice low. I nodded. Just tired. He didn't push. That's what made him dangerous in a different way. Kindness that never demanded, patience that felt like a balm, and a chain. He held the door open, and I stepped into the house I had built from nothing, from dust and fear, and the stubbornness to survive. Everything I owned was secondhand, except the life I made inside these walls. And now it wasn't mine anymore. Not entirely. The second I sat down, my body reminded me I wasn't healed. I wasn't even close. My limbs ached in places I hadn't felt in years. My lungs still carried the weight of too many sleepless nights, too many withheld truths. My heart, well, that was another matter entirely. Lorenzo walked into the kitchen. The sound of the kettle starting filled the room. That's how he comforted. With routine, with silence, with space. Did he say anything to you? I asked finally. He turned, leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Only that he knew you. And you believed him? His jaw flexed. I believed the way your hands shook when I mentioned him. I looked away. He paid the hospital, he added. I know. And you didn't stop him. I didn't ask him to. Emilia. My name hung between us like something holy and broken. I couldn't stop him even if I tried, I said softly. Do you want to? I lifted my eyes to his. He wasn't angry. Not really. Just present. That was always his gift, to stay. Even when I didn't deserve it. I don't know what I want, I whispered. I just know what I can't survive again. And him? His voice lowered. Does he fall into the can't survive category? Or the one you're afraid you still want? I flinched. Not visibly, but enough for him to see it. He stepped closer. You've never talked about him. Not once in 6 years. I didn't press because I thought maybe time would soften whatever it was he did to you. He didn't hurt me, I said quickly. But you left. I had to. Because he's dangerous? Because I was, I breathed. To myself. Around him. The kettle screamed. He didn't move. Neither did I. Do you love him? He asked. It wasn't fair. Not now. Not when my bones still echoed with a name I'd spent years burying beneath coffee grounds and garden soil and bedtime stories. I loved what I thought he was, I said. Then I found out the truth, and I still wanted to stay. And that scared me more than anything else in the world. Lorenzo nodded, walked over, set the tea down in front of me. I'm not going to fight him, he said. I didn't ask you to, but I'll be here. That hasn't changed. I closed my hand around the mug. Warmth seeped in. I know. He lingered for a beat, then stepped away. From the hallway, I heard Noah's laughter. Wild, free, unaware of the tides pulling beneath the surface of this quiet house. My boy. My beginning. The one who had unknowingly summoned the end of the lie I'd built for us. Outside, somewhere beyond the trees, the other Lorenzo waited. Maybe watching. Maybe plotting his entrance with that cold, calculated patience only men like him wielded well. I could feel it like pressure in my ribs. A storm circling the edges. And still, somewhere deep beneath the fear, was the faintest flicker of longing.
I read the medical file twice, not because I didn't understand the words, but because something inside me rebelled against them. Autoimmune disorder, chronic stress, malnourishment, a life lived under siege, but without bullets. It felt personal, like every unchecked line was a silent accusation carved across her spine. Emilia Hart had vanished 6 years ago with nothing but a suitcase and a name that still made my chest tighten. Now she had a diagnosis and a boy who wore my blood in his bones. And still, she hadn't called me, hadn't even whispered my name. But she hadn't deleted my number either. That detail mattered more than I was willing to admit. The hospital clerk gave me everything I asked for. They always do. Money has a way of unlocking silence, and mine comes coated in fear. I didn't threaten her. I just looked at her the way my father once taught me, like the only answer I'd accept was yes. Outside, Willow Creek looked like a postcard someone forgot to write on. Clean sidewalks, fences painted by hand, children laughing like they'd never learned what loss tasted like. This place had swallowed her whole, and she'd let it. My men followed her routine now. Quiet, non-invasive. I wanted information, not interference. I watched Noah through a lens at first, a camera buried in a tree across from the school, then through binoculars from the... But nothing compared to seeing him up close. His laugh, his stubborn jaw, the way he held a pencil, tight, like the world might slip away if he let go. He was mine, no tests needed, and she'd raised him alone. Dante stepped beside me, holding a thermos I didn't ask for. He handed it over anyway. She's not what I expected, he said. You expected rape. I expected a ghost. She's both, I murmured. He paused. You gonna talk to her today? No. Why not? Because she's still bracing. Bracing for what? For me. Dante gave a dry laugh. She should be. I didn't smile, didn't blink. Would you tell her I'm here? No. Why? Because you're not here to be forgiven. Exactly. I wasn't after apologies or second chances. I wanted presence, ownership. That child had my blood and my name buried under heart, like a secret too soft to survive the truth. And that woman still moved like she remembered the weight of my hips. The way she used to look at me when she thought I was just complicated, not lethal. I didn't want to remind her who I was. I wanted her to realize she'd never stopped knowing. She's not yours anymore, Dante said. She never was. Then why are you still circling her like a starving dog? Because she was the last thing I touched that didn't turn to ash. He went quiet. I liked him better that way. Back in the safe house we'd rented under a fake name, I laid out the photographs. Noah, at school. Amelia in the garden. Lorenzo Miller standing too close, smiling like he belonged in frames that should have burned. The man was steady, kind. I hated him. He made breakfast in her kitchen, washed Noah's paintbrushes, carried her bags. He had the look of a man who could stay, and she let him. But she didn't look at him the way she used to look at me, like the world tilted differently in my presence. Like touch wasn't just permission, it was surrender. I knew that look. I'd built empires on the hunger inside it. I hadn't forgotten how her breath caught when I whispered her name, or how her spine arched when my mouth found the corner of her jaw. She remembered too. I saw it in her face when she opened the door and found me standing. Not shock, not really, just inevitability. Like I was the consequence she always knew would return. Tomorrow I'd speak to her, not as a man asking for place, but as the one who was always going to take it back. But tonight, I would wait. I would watch. And I would let her feel the truth unravel quietly beneath her skin. I hadn't come for revenge. I'd come to finish what she never should have walked away from.
I felt it before I saw it. A pressure. A hum beneath my ribs. Too steady to be anxiety. Too sharp to be coincidence. The air outside was too still. Too quiet. Like the town was holding its breath with me. I stood by the sink, hands deep in warm water, trying to scrub clay from under my fingernails. But the feeling didn't lift. It sank. He was near. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was tired. That recovery was a strange thing. It rewired your senses, made your fears louder, your body more alert to ghosts. But some ghosts didn't need shadows to exist. Some had phone numbers, bank accounts, a voice that could split you open with 2 syllables and a breath. Mama? Noah's voice carried from the back door. He was barefoot again. Mud streaked up his shins, a worm wiggling in his palm. Don't bring that inside. But he's cute. Outside, Noah. He huffed, turned, and I watched him through the screen. A small, wild piece of joy I had somehow kept safe in a world full of teeth. And then I saw it. A car, parked just past the oak trees, matte black. Too clean for Willow Creek, too silent, no logo, no dust, the kind of car that didn't arrive by accident. My spine straightened. The rag in my hand dropped into the sink. My breath slowed. Cold, heavy. I couldn't see the driver, but I didn't need to. I felt him. Lorenzo Moretti didn't knock twice. He didn't announce his presence. He never had to. He entered lives the way fire entered forests. Quiet, hungry, and unforgiving. My hand found the edge of the counter, gripping hard enough to hurt. My knees remembered how to shake. My mouth forgot how to swallow. Mama, he waved. Noah's voice snapped me back. My heart stuttered. Who? The man in the car. He waved at me. He looked nice. Noah. Sweet, pure, trusting Noah. I moved to the door, fast, pulled it open. Inside, I said. Now. He blinked, startled. But, Noah. He knew that tone. It broke something in him every time I used it. He stepped in slowly, worm forgotten, lips pressed together. I shut the door, locked it, turned the blinds. The clay on my arms dried in ridges. My heart refused to calm. Outside, the car didn't move. Neither did I. 10 minutes passed, then 20, and finally it was gone, but the damage stayed. Later, after Noah was asleep, after Lorenzo Miller kissed my forehead and told me I was doing too much too soon, after I'd showered in silence and stood in front of the mirror longer than necessary, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I remembered his voice, the way he once said my name like it was a promise, and a sentence, and something sacred. Amelia. I remembered the heat in his hand, the taste of him, the way his control wrapped around me like velvet and chain. I remembered how he looked at me the night before I left, like he already knew I was slipping, and he'd decided to let me go without saying it. Because that was Lorenzo. He never begged. He waited. And now, he was waiting again. Not at my door, not in my arms, just at the edge of my world, watching, deciding, and I was already burning.
He opened the door. Not her. The man. Lorenzo Miller. It took everything in me not to smile at the irony of the name. My mouth wanted to curl with it, with the slow, delicious ache of seeing my reflection in someone else's shadow. But I didn't. I just stood there in the dying light of hands loose at my sides, eyes already inside the house. She's not expecting you, he said. No, I replied. But she knew I was coming. He hesitated. Just a flicker. Not fear. Not quite. But something quieter. Recognition of what I was, or of what I used to be. His posture was honest, grounded, the kind of man who wears patience like armor. And she'd let him in. I could see it on his shirt. Paint smudges, a little wet clay, a child's handprint still visible on the cuff. Noah's hand. I looked past him, into the hallway, into her world. Then she was there, behind him, barefoot, breath shallow, eyes wide like they always got when she saw me for the first time in a long time. Like the air had gone thin. I didn't speak, neither did she. It was the kind of silence that made people believe in reincarnation, because in that moment, nothing ended. Everything just returned. Lorenzo, she breathed. Not mine, the other one, still in the doorway, still trying to block what he couldn't. Let him in, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried. The man moved aside, slowly, reluctantly. But he moved. I stepped over the threshold. 1 step, 2. The smell hit me first. Her. Still jasmine and something warm I could never name. Then the house. Worn wood. Earth. A life too small for the fire she used to carry. Noah appeared from the side room, holding a book too big for his hands. He froze when he saw me. Not with fear, just with that quiet, assessing stillness children have when they sense the rules have changed. Hi, he said. I blinked. His voice was lighter than mine, but something in the rhythm, it echoed. Hi, Noah, I answered. His eyebrows pulled together. How do you know my name? I looked at her, straight into her. Because your mother and I used to know everything about each other. Noah turned to her, curious. She looked tired, flushed, but she didn't stop me. Are you Mom's friend? He asked. I was, I said. Her lips parted. She was about to correct me, or deny it, or shatter whatever that word was meant to hold, but she didn't. I think you should go, Miller said, stepping forward. I turned, calm, colder. You're not the one I came for. Maybe not, he replied, but she's the one I'm staying for. I liked that he said it without flinching. I liked it even more that she winced. Enough, she said. Please. Her hand went to her temple. The color drained from her cheeks. I stepped toward her before I could stop myself. Amelia, she shook her head. Don't say my name like what? Like I remembered the sound of it against my skin? Like I still tasted it when I couldn't sleep? Noah reached up and took her hand, as if he could feel it, the tremor in her bones. Mom, he whispered. You okay? She nodded, but the lie sat heavy in her throat. I need a minute, she said. Miller reached for her elbow. She brushed him off gently, walked past both of us, disappeared into the hallway like a breath you forget how to take. Noah stared after her, then looked back at me. You're not from here. No, I said. He tilted his head. But you know her? I did. A pause. Then, are you the reason she cries sometimes at night? I didn't answer, because there was no answer that wouldn't be true. He opened the door. Not her. The man. Lorenzo Miller. It took everything in me not to smile at the irony of the name. My mouth wanted to curl with it, with the slow, delicious ache of seeing my reflection in someone else's shadow. But I didn't. I just stood there in the dying light of eve, hands loose at my sides, eyes already inside the house. She's not expecting you, he said. No, I replied, but she knew I was coming. He hesitated. Just a flicker. Not fear. Not quite, but something quieter. Recognition maybe of what I was, or of what I used to be. His posture was honest, grounded, the kind of man who wears patience like armor, and she'd let him in. I could see it on his shirt. Paint smudges, a little wet clay, a child's handprint still visible on the cuff. Noah's hand. I looked past him, into the hallway, into her world. Then she was there, behind him, barefoot, breath shallow, eyes wide like they always got when she saw me for the first time in a long time, like the air had gone thin. I didn't speak, neither did she. It was the kind of silence that made people believe in reincarnation, because in that moment, nothing ended. Everything just returned. "Lorenzo," she breathed. "Not mine. The other one. Still in the doorway, still trying to block what he couldn't." "Let him in," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried. The man moved aside, slowly, reluctantly, but he moved. I stepped over the threshold. 1 step, 2. The smell hit me first. Her. Still jasmine and something warm I could never name. Then the house. Worn wood. Earth. A life too small for the fire she used to carry. Noah appeared from the side room, holding a book too big for his hands. He froze when he saw me. Not with fear, just with that quiet, assessing stillness children have when they sense the rules have changed. "Hi," he said. I blinked. His voice was lighter than mine, but something in the rhythm. It echoed. "Hi, Noah," I answered. His eyebrows pulled together. "How do you know my name?" I looked at her, straight into her. "Because your mother and I used to know everything about each other." Noah turned to her, curious. She looked tired, flushed, but she didn't stop me. "Are you Mom's friend?" he asked. "I was," I said. Her lips parted. She was about to correct me, or deny it, or shatter whatever that word was meant to hold, but she didn't. "I think you should go," Miller said behind me, stepping forward now. I turned, calm, colder. "You're not the one I came for." "Maybe not," he replied, "but she's the one I'm staying for." I liked that he said it without flinching. I liked it even more that she winced. "Enough," she said. "Please." Her hand went to her temple. The color drained from her cheeks. I stepped toward her before I could stop myself. "Amelia," she shook her head. Don't say my name like." "Like what? Like I remembered the sound of it against my skin? Like I still tasted it when I couldn't sleep?" Noah reached up and took her hand, as if he could feel it, the tremor in her bones. "Mom," he whispered. "You okay?" She nodded, but the lie sat heavy in her throat. "I need a minute," she said. Miller reached for her elbow. She brushed him off gently, walked past both of us, disappeared into the hallway like a breath you forget how to take. Noah stared after her, then looked back at me. "You're not from here." "No," I said. He tilted his head. "But you know her?" I did. A pause. Then, "Are you the reason she cries sometimes at night?" I didn't answer, because there was no answer that wouldn't be true.
I didn't mean to run, but my body got there first. The moment his voice reached the softest part of me, the part that still remembered how he used to whisper it against my neck, I broke. Quietly. Completely. My legs carried me down the hallway, my hands trembling as I braced against the wall, heart hammering like it remembered every reason I left and none of the reasons I stayed. I didn't cry. Not yet. That would come later, when the door was closed and the lights were off, and no one could see the way the memory of his gaze undressed me more thoroughly than his hands ever had. Lorenzo Moretti was in my house, in my son's house. His voice was older, thicker, but it still slid beneath my skin like a blade sheathed in velvet. There was no safety with him. There never had been. Only hunger and heat and the terrifying sense that if he wanted something badly enough, the world would burn to give it to him. And right now, he wanted me. Or worse, he wanted Noah. I sat on the edge of my bed, pulse ragged, fingers clutching the hem of my dress. My breath tasted like metal. My ribs refused to expand. I counted to 4. Inhale, hold, out, again. A knock. Soft. Too careful to be Moretti. Lorenzo Miller stepped inside. Slow, steady, eyes holding mine like he didn't want to spook whatever creature I'd become. "He's gone," he said. I nodded but didn't look at him. "He's not staying away," he added. "I know. You okay?" I hated that question. I hated how often I had to pretend the answer was yes. "I'm breathing." He moved closer, sat on the floor beside the bed, back resting against the frame. He didn't touch me. He never did without invitation. That was why I trusted him, and why it hurt more. "He loves you," he said quietly. Or he did. I pressed my lips together. "He left," I whispered. "Did he know you were pregnant?" "No." "Do you wish he had?" I didn't answer, because the truth lived in too many timelines. In the one where I told him and he stayed. In the one where he rejected the idea of fatherhood and shattered me. In the one where I didn't run, and something worse than heartbreak found me. "When I found out," I said slowly, "I was scared. But I was happy too. I used to imagine telling him. I used to imagine his eyes softening when I said the words. I believed for a moment that love would be louder than the danger." Miller didn't move, but I felt him listening. "And then I found out who he really was," I said. "Not just rumors, truth. One of the girls he used to sleep with, a cousin of someone high up in the family, she told me everything. What his father did, what he had done, what would be expected of our child. My voice broke on the last word. I couldn't stay. Not after that. And now? He asked. Now I still don't know if I made the right choice. The room went still. Then Miller turned his head, looked up at me, his voice a breath from breaking. He's a powerful man, Amelia. I see it. I felt it in the room, and I can't compete with that. But I want to make something clear. He stood, not with anger, but something quieter, more resolute. I've loved you, he said. Not loudly, not in a way that tried to claim you, just fully. I've been here, and I will keep being here, even if you never choose me. I finally looked at him, really looked. He wasn't fire, he was shelter, but fire had walked through my door again, and I didn't know how long I could pretend I wasn't already burning.
The sun hadn't even touched the hills when I stepped out of the car. The morning was sharp, chilled, threaded with the scent of pine and smoke and something distinctly domestic, burnt toast maybe, or yesterday's coffee lingering in the kind of scent that clings to a life built slowly, by hand, the kind of life she had tried to keep me out of. But I was here now. The dirt crunched beneath my shoes as I walked, slow, intentional. I wanted him to see me coming. Lorenzo Miller was already outside, splitting wood like it was something sacred, shirt clinging to his back, hair damp with sweat, movements practiced. He didn't look up right away, which meant he knew I was there, and chose not to flinch. Good. He finished the swing. The log split clean. Then he turned, wiped his hands on his jeans, and faced me like a man who understood exactly what he was about to lose. You're early, he said. You're in my way, I replied. He didn't blink. She's not yours. She was never yours. She never had to be, he said softly. She chose to be here. For how long? I tilted my head, slow, deliberate. You think comfort equals permanence? You think because you poured tea and played father, she forgot what it felt like to burn? He took a step forward. Barely. Don't talk about her like she's a weakness. She's the strongest thing I've ever touched. We stood there in the space between two lives, his, quiet and safe, built on soil and patience, mine, blood-soaked, ash-marked, forged in silence, and in the center of that quiet war, her. You hurt her, he said, and you think I came to do it again? I think you came to take what doesn't belong to you. You're wrong, I said. I came to reclaim what's always been mine. He looked away then, just briefly, toward the house, toward her. That single flicker of uncertainty was all I needed, all I wanted. I'm not here for her pity, I added, or her forgiveness. And I'm sure as hell not here to apologize to you. I don't need an apology. No, I said. You need to let go. He exhaled through his nose, calm, like a man who thought reason could still fix this. You can be part of his life, he said, if that's what she wants. But if you try to control her, I stepped in, too close. My voice dropped low enough to melt frost. I don't control Amelia, I whispered. I consume her. His jaw tightened, his hands curled. She left you. And yet, I'm here. You think that's an accident? I turned, slow, deliberate, and walked away before he could answer, because he already knew.
There are memories that don't age. They don't soften. They don't fade. They sharpen. Like knives in a drawer you stop opening because you already know which one cuts the deepest. I remember the way he looked at me the first time. It wasn't love. Not yet. It was curiosity cloaked in danger. A stillness in the way his eyes moved, like he already knew how the story ended but wanted to feel the pain of it anyway. We met on campus. I was 21, bare-legged, barefoot more often than not, always dusted in clay. He was wrong in every way that thrilled me. Older, too composed, eyes like winter storms and hands that never seemed rushed, not even when they reached for me. I should have known, but I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I wanted it anyway. He used to sit in the back of the studio pretending to read contracts while I sculpted. I told myself he liked watching the process, the mess, the way I disappeared into creation. But he was studying me. Every breath, every silence, every crack I didn't know I was showing. One night, I left my hands in the clay too long. They ached. Red, raw. He noticed. Said nothing. Just reached for my wrists, one at a time, dipped a cloth in warm water and cleaned me like I was something precious. I think that's when I started to fall. And when I fell, I didn't fall soft. I fell like the ocean drops into a storm. I let him in, slowly at first, then all at once. I told him about my childhood, my broken mother, the way silence sometimes feels safer than truth. He told me nothing in return, only watched, only listened, only touched me like he was memorizing what it felt like to hold something without breaking it. He never said he loved me, but his hands did. His silence did, until it didn't. I didn't find out who he truly was from him. I found out from a girl named Elise, drunk at a party, whose cousin had married into the Moretti family. She laughed when she saw me on his arm, whispered in my ear like it was a game, said things no one should know, names, places, orders given and carried out. At first I thought she was lying, but when I looked into his eyes that night, I saw it. The truth, not regret, not even shame, just acceptance. Like he knew I'd find out eventually, and he wasn't sorry. I was already late. I was already pregnant. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the bathtub fully clothed, the water going cold around my knees, one hand on my belly, and the other clenched so tightly I tore skin from my palm. I wanted to believe he could change. I wanted to believe I could handle it. I wanted to believe love would be enough, but wanting has teeth, and mine were already bleeding. I didn't tell him. I disappeared. No note, no goodbye, just vanishing, like the lie I thought we could be. I didn't even look back, until now, until the knock, until the man standing on my porch with my son's eyes and my past in his breath, until the moment I realized the version of me that left him never really left at all. She just buried herself under diapers and debt and the illusion of safety. But now she was awake again, and she wanted answers.
I watched him before I let him see me. He was alone, seated cross-legged beneath a maple tree near the school, scribbling into a notebook too large for his lap. His tongue stuck out a little while he focused. My heart did something violent, unexpected, quiet. The same thing it did once when I first saw Amelia throw a pot on the wheel. Focused, messy, divine. Noah, my son. He didn't look up when the bell rang. The other children spilled into the sun like water breaking over rocks. He stayed. Like he'd learned already how to be still inside noise. That too was mine. I used to sit exactly like that. Alone but not lonely, waiting for the world to tell me something useful. I didn't come close. Not yet. I waited. 2 minutes. 5. Then he saw me. I didn't smile. He didn't either. He looked at me like I was a page he'd already started reading but didn't remember writing. You were here yesterday, he said. Not a question. Yes. Why? I thought about lying. Didn't. I wanted to see you. He squinted. Not with suspicion. With precision. Like he wanted to understand the math of, are you my dad? The question dropped between us like a stone into a lake that hadn't moved in years. I didn't flinch. Do you want me to be? He looked away. Bit his lip. I don't know. I already have a bedtime story guy. I nodded. I'm not very good at stories. Are you good at drawing? No. Fighting? Yes. He considered that. Are you the reason Mama's sad sometimes? Yes. I think I'm the reason she smiles less, I said. He looked back at me, and for the first time, truly looked. Something in him shifted. It wasn't trust, but it was closer than doubt. I draw monsters, he said, holding up his notebook. Not the scary kind. The ones that look mean, but really they just want to be hugged. My chest cracked open. Can I see one? He handed it over. The creature was crooked, wide-eyed, one hand raised like it wanted to touch but didn't know how. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I felt it leave. What's his name? I asked. Doesn't have one yet. Maybe he doesn't know who he is. Noah nodded solemnly. Maybe no one's told him who he could be. I looked at my son, and I knew in that moment, if I ever got the chance to keep him, I'd spend the rest of my life becoming the kind of monster that deserved that hug.
He was already inside. The back door. Of course. Lorenzo Moretti never knocked when he wanted something. He entered, silently, as if he belonged, not to the space, but to the tension in it, as if he was the storm. He stood in my kitchen like he hadn't been gone a day, fingers grazing the edge of the table I'd sanded by hand, eyes on me the moment I stepped into the room. Not to threaten, not to beg, just to be unmovable, certain. You shouldn't be here, I said. He didn't flinch, but I am. I stayed where I was, one breath past the threshold, the wall behind me solid, the ground beneath me softer than it should have been. You saw him, I said. Did you expect he'd look different? No, he said. He looks like both of us. A pause, then quieter. He asked if I was the reason you cry at night. The air between us shivered. I didn't answer. You didn't need to, I said. He already knew. He nodded, once, then stepped forward, slow. I didn't back away. I didn't trust myself to move. I want the truth, he said. It won't undo anything. I don't care. I let the silence hold a beat longer than it should have. My fingers curled against the doorframe. Then I spoke. I was going to tell you, I said. I was pregnant, scared, but happy. You looked at me like you saw things no one else did. I thought maybe, just maybe, love would be enough. His jaw shifted, barely. But then Elise cornered me, I went on, at a party. Drunk, mean, whispering things in my ear like secrets were toys. She told me what your family really was, what you were, what would be expected of our child. I exhaled. Long. Low. I didn't sleep that night. I just left. I would have chosen you, he said. No. You would have chosen me and the Empire. His eyes narrowed. You don't know that. I do. Because I loved you, and I watched how you loved power, how it steadied you, how it filled the cracks you never let anyone touch. You needed control, and I was too afraid to find out what you'd do once I asked you to give it up. He stepped closer, close enough to taste the storm still clinging to him. I would have burned it all. Would you have meant it? I whispered. Or would I have just been one more thing you kept in the fire because you didn't know how to put it down? He didn't answer, because he knew, and so did I. I'm not the same girl you remember, I said, voice rough. And he's not just your son. He's mine. Every scraped knee, every bad dream, every laugh, I raised him with my own hands. Without your name, without your money, without a single word from you. His breath hitched, just barely. I'm not asking for permission, I said, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. Then what are you asking for? He rasped. To survive you, I said. Again. And then I turned and left him standing in the quiet house that wasn't his, with all the truths he thought he wanted, and none of the power he used to hold.
She left me standing there, not with hate, not with rage, but with something quieter, something worse. Resolve. I didn't move for a long time. The kitchen around me still carried her. Warm ceramic scents, the ghost of cinnamon, the subtle vanilla of Noah's shampoo. I stood in it like a man who'd built a house in his own name, only to find someone else had been living in it all along, and still, I wasn't done. The door clicked behind me when I left, the sound too final for something so soft. The sky outside was bruised with dusk, clouds stacked like fists above the trees. My driver waited by the car, smart enough to stay silent. He opened the back door. I didn't get in. Instead, I pulled out the folder, the one I'd brought in case she asked for proof I could still offer the world in the palm of my... I hadn't opened it. She hadn't asked, but I wasn't done giving. Inside, deeds, paper trail, medical coverage, a pre-enrolled education fund under Noah's name, quiet partnerships, untraceable threads of protection woven so tightly into this town's infrastructure that if a storm came again, she'd never even feel the wind. I handed the folder to Dante. Deliver this to her house, quietly. No one sees you. He raised an eyebrow. No signature? She'll know it's me. And if she doesn't take it, she will. Why? Because even when she's furious, I said, she still believes I'd never let her drown. He nodded, and he was gone. I stayed. An hour later, I stood in front of the school, not to watch Noah. This time, I waited for the teacher to leave. She was young, bright-eyed, overworked. She didn't know who I was, and I didn't correct her. I handed her a sealed envelope. My name was nowhere on it, but inside was a contact number, a private medical response team, pediatric specialists on call, a direct line that would reach me, and only me, if anything happened to when I wasn't nearby. For emergencies, I said. She studied me. You're the father? No, I said. Not yet. And I left her with the question, because that's what I was to them now. A question they hadn't learned how to answer. That night, I walked Willow Creek alone, down quiet streets, past wooden fences and string lights, and children's chalk on sidewalks that would wash away with the next rain. I walked until I saw the glow of her window, one room lit, a shadow in motion. She was alone, but she wasn't lonely, and that distinction gutted me. She didn't need me, not anymore, but wanting, that was different, and I had never stopped wanting her, not in silence, not in fury, not even in absence, and I knew the difference between a woman who closes the door and a woman who locks it. She hadn't locked it, not yet.
It started with a cough, soft, almost shy, then another, sharper. By the third, I was upright in bed, heart pounding like it already knew. The air in the room felt wrong, still, heavy. My bare feet hit the floor before my thoughts could catch up. Noah's door was cracked, a golden sliver of nightlight sliced across the hall. He was curled on his side, knees to chest, sweat dampening his hairline. His breathing stuttered, not labored, not yet, but uneven. The kind of uneven that turned blood to ice. I was next to him in a second. Baby? He stirred, eyes blinking slow. It hurts, he rasped. My hands went straight to his chest, then his forehead. Warm. Too warm. I didn't panic. Not out loud. I'd been here before, with every change in weather, every seasonal shift, but this felt different, tighter, quieter. Okay, I whispered. Let's get you up. He winced as I helped him stand, his body too light, his arms trembling when they wrapped around my neck. I grabbed the emergency bag, already packed, always ready, and headed for the door. But when I opened it, he was already there. Lorenzo. leaning against the frame like the night had summoned him. His eyes moved from me to Noah, and whatever softness lived behind them collapsed into something fierce, something primal. "I'll drive," he said. I didn't argue. The car ride was silent except for the sound of Noah's breathing, and the way Lorenzo's hands gripped the wheel like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. At the ER, he didn't ask for permission. He ordered a team. Fast. Precise. The kind of response money doesn't just buy, it fears. I stood frozen as strangers moved around me, words blurred by urgency and beeping monitors. Lorenzo stayed at my side. One hand hovered just close enough to touch me, but didn't. It was the restraint that broke me. "He'll be okay," he said. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Later, when the machines quieted and the doctors left and Noah slept, chest rising steadier now, I sat in the corner of the room, arms wrapped around myself like a shell. Lorenzo didn't sit. He watched. And then, finally, he called me a monster. I looked up. He wasn't looking at me, just at Noah. The other day, when we talked, he didn't say it to hurt, just as fact. I swallowed. "He draws them," I said, "to understand the things he's afraid of." He nodded. "I used to do that, except I didn't draw them. I became them." I closed my eyes. Silence stretched long and thin. Then, his voice again, lower. "But I would become anything if it meant protecting him." My throat tightened. "I know," I whispered. He turned then, met my gaze. There was something raw in it, not regret, not apology, something older, like grief wrapped in devotion. "I never deserved you," he said. "No," I said, "but you could still be someone who deserves him." His jaw flexed. "And if I want both?" The question didn't surprise me. The answer scared me, because I didn't know if I had the strength to keep saying no to the one man I had never stopped saying yes to in my bones.
She didn't ask me to stay. She didn't need to. The chair beside Noah's hospital bed was narrow, stiff, uncomfortable in all the ways that didn't matter. She was curled up in the corner of the room, knees to her chest, head tilted toward the soft hum of machines. There was nothing fragile about her in that moment, only quiet strength wrapped in exhaustion. I sat beside the boy who didn't yet know how much of me lived in his marrow, the only proof I had ever created that something inside me was still human. His breathing was steady now, each rise and fall pulling a thread through my chest, tighter, deeper. I had known violence, I had held power by the throat, but nothing had ever terrified me the way watching him struggle to breathe had. Hours passed. She didn't speak, neither did I, and yet, everything between us was screaming. At some point, she drifted off. Her body eased into sleep, lashes heavy against her cheeks. Her guard had dropped. Not for me, not fully, but enough for me to see the pieces she hid behind her fire. The tenderness she used to save only for the way her lips softened when she wasn't biting back truth. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes on her. It was agony, wanting her like this. Not in silk sheets, not pressed against walls or tangled in just here, in silence, in rawness, in the breath between fear and forgiveness. Noah stirred, rolled onto his side, and I adjusted the blanket before his fingers could curl into cold air. Emilia stirred too, waking just enough to meet my eyes across the dim room. Her voice was sleep-warm, rough. "You stayed. I couldn't leave. You always left before. I never wanted to." She blinked slowly. "Then why did you?" I exhaled through my nose. "Because I didn't know how to stay, not without breaking something. And now?" I looked down at Noah. "I'm learning." A beat, then another. She unfolded herself, crossed the room, didn't ask, just sat in the second chair beside me. Our shoulders didn't touch, but I could feel the gravity of "I used to imagine this," she whispered. "Me here?" She nodded. "You, me, him, all breathing in the same room." I turned my head, looked at her fully. "And now that it's real?" She didn't smile, but her voice dropped lower. "It's unbearable." I felt that, in my ribs, in the slow ache of restraint. "Do you want me gone?" I asked. Her inhale caught. Then, no. We sat like that, not touching, but burning. And for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to stay and want nothing but the breath of someone who had once called you dangerous and now called you necessary.
We didn't speak on the drive home. Noah slept in the back seat, his head tilted toward the window, a soft line of drool trailing from his mouth, his lashes heavy against his skin. His little hand rested on his chest like he was still guarding something even in dreams. Lorenzo drove with one hand, the other resting near the gearshift, close enough that I could feel the heat of it from where I sat. He didn't touch me. He hadn't since the hospital. And yet the air between us pulsed with something electric, something unspoken that lived just beneath the surface of our restraint. When we reached the house, he carried Noah inside, cradled him like he was something sacred. I followed in silence, my heart thudding too loud, too fast, as if it knew what I hadn't yet allowed myself to say. Lorenzo laid him in bed gently, adjusting the blankets, brushing a curl from his forehead. Then he stepped back, and for a second, he just stood there, watching his son breathe. Mine. Ours. I didn't ask him to stay, but I didn't tell him to go. He followed me into the kitchen, where I moved on instinct. Cups, kettle, the soft ritual of warmth. Something inside me needed the motion, the familiarity. I poured the tea, handed him one, and leaned against the counter across from him. Neither of us drank. You could have left, I said quietly. I didn't want to. You usually do. I used to. That distinction hit somewhere tender. We stood there, steam rising between us, unzipped and heavy. His eyes never left mine. That look, steady, slow burning, too intimate for this small space. I want you to stay, I whispered. I hadn't planned to say it. His chest rose, then held. I wasn't sure you'd say that. I wasn't sure I would either. He took a step forward. So did I. Until we were close, not touching, just near enough to feel every breath pass between us. If I stay, he said, voice low, it won't be gentle. I nodded. I don't want gentle, I breathed. I still want all of you. I never stopped being yours. His hand moved then, slow, like dusk over skin, brushing my jaw, tracing the edge of my cheek. I leaned into the touch, the familiarity, the danger of it. His thumb slid beneath my chin. He tilted my face toward his, but he didn't kiss me. Not yet. He just watched me, like I was something he'd broken once, and was afraid to hold again. You're not forgiven, I whispered. I know, but I still want you here. His lips curved, the faintest ghost of a smile. Then I'll stay. And he did. Not in my bed, not in my body, not yet. He stayed in the hallway outside my room, on the old armchair no one used, legs stretched out, eyes closed but not sleeping. And that night, I dreamed not of fire, but of warmth.
We didn't speak on the drive home. Noah slept in the back seat, his head tilted toward the window, a soft line of drool trailing from his mouth, his lashes heavy against his skin. His little hand rested on his chest like he was still guarding something in dreams. Lorenzo drove with one hand, the other resting near the gear shift, close enough that I could feel the heat of it from where I sat. He didn't touch me. He hadn't since the hospital, and yet the air between us pulsed with something electric, something unspoken that lived just beneath the surface of our restraint. When we reached the house, he carried Noah inside, cradled him like he was something sacred. I followed in silence, my heart thudding too loud, too fast, as if it knew what I hadn't yet allowed myself to say. Lorenzo laid him in bed gently, adjusting the blankets, brushing a curl from his forehead. Then he stepped back, and for a second, he just stood there, watching his son breathe. Mine. Ours. I didn't ask him to stay, but I didn't tell him to go. He followed me into the kitchen where I moved on instinct. Cups, kettle, the soft ritual of warmth. Something inside me needed the motion, the familiarity. I poured the tea, handed him one, and leaned against the counter across from him. Neither of us drank. You could have left, I said quietly. I didn't want to. You usually do. I used to. That distinction hit somewhere tender. We stood there, steam rising between us, unsipped, and his eyes never left mine. That look, steady, slow burning, too intimate for this small space. I want you to stay. I hadn't planned to say it. His chest rose, then held. I wasn't sure you'd say that. I wasn't sure I would either. He took a step forward. So did I. Until we were close. Not touching. Just near enough to feel every breath pass between us. If I stay, he said, voice low, it won't be gentle. I nodded. I don't want gentle, I breathed. I still want all of you. I never stopped being yours. His hand moved then, slow, like dusk over skin, brushing my jaw, tracing the edge of my cheek. I leaned into the touch, the familiarity, the danger of it. His thumb slid beneath my chin. He tilted my face toward his, but he didn't kiss me. Not yet. He just watched me, like I was something he'd broken once, and was afraid to hold again. You're not forgiven, I whispered. I know, but I still want you here. His lips curved, the faintest ghost of a smile. Then I'll stay. And he did. Not in my bed, not in my body, not yet. He stayed in the hallway outside my room, on the old armchair no one used, legs stretched out, eyes closed but not sleeping. And that night, I dreamed not of fire, but of warmth.
The kiss still echoed, not on my mouth, but deeper, down where memory lived with desire and all the reasons I told myself not to need him. I walked away first. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. The part of me that still ached for him was loud now, clawing at the walls I'd built to keep my world from slipping. I let the air cool my skin, let the silence between us stretch long enough to breathe again. Later, when I found Miller in the garden, he was kneeling beside a row of herbs, hands in the dirt, face calm. He looked up when he heard me, didn't smile, just studied me like he already knew something had shifted. I was wondering when you'd come, he said. I needed to talk. He nodded and stood, brushing dirt from his hands. I didn't walk closer. I couldn't. The weight of the kiss still clung to my mouth, and I wasn't ready to see what that truth looked like reflected in someone else's eyes. I saw him leave this morning, he said. You didn't walk him out. No. You let him stay the night? Yes. A pause. Measured. Tense. I never wanted to be a substitute, he said. But I was willing to be a constant. I swallowed. You were more than that. I know. His voice cracked just a little. But I was never going to be him, was I? I looked down. Shame moved like warm syrup over my ribs. Slow. Thick. Undeniable. I'm not angry, he continued. But I needed to hear it. From you. I lifted my head. I loved the life we built, Miller. I needed it. I still need parts of it. But the moment he walked back in, I realized something I didn't want to admit. That you never stopped waiting? My breath caught. I think I was holding my breath the entire time, I said. And now that he's here, it's like my lungs remember how to work again. He smiled then. Small, sad, beautiful. I don't hate him, he said. But I hate what he woke up in you. What did he wake up? The part of you that was never mine to keep. Tears burned the corners of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. He stepped forward, brushed a speck of soil from my cheek. You're still the bravest person I know. I don't feel brave. No one ever does in the moment they choose what they can't undo. I closed my eyes, exhaled. I never meant to hurt you. I know, he said, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. And with that, he stepped back, nodded once, walked toward the barn with shoulders squared and heartbreak written into every step. I stood there, knees weak, heart wrecked, knowing I'd chosen fire. And that fire was already walking back toward me, ready to consume. But this time, I wanted to burn.
I felt her before I saw her, the shift in the air, the way the light bent against the porch, slower, as if it too knew something was ending or beginning again. Her footsteps were soft but not hesitant. She walked like a woman who had made a decision, and it wasn't about forgiveness, it was about presence. I didn't turn right away, let her stand there, let the silence settle between us like dust over old scars. I kept my gaze on the fading sky, the soft blur of dusk bleeding into the hills. Then, her voice, quiet, unsteady, absolute. I'm not here for an apology. I turned. She stood barefoot on the edge of the steps, arms crossed, not in defense but in anchor. Her hair was loose, wind-touched, her eyes clear in that way only someone who's finally stopped running can be. I'm not here for promises either, she said, not the ones that come with pretty words and burn out by morning. I stepped down, closing the distance but not touching her, not yet. What are you here for? I asked. She looked up at me, and her voice dropped like the calm before a wildfire. To see if I can survive the way you love me, now that I'm not afraid of it anymore. I didn't breathe, because that wasn't permission. It was an invocation. I reached for her slowly, letting her feel every inch of space disappear between us until my hand cupped her jaw, until my thumb traced the edge of her mouth. She leaned into it, not desperate, certain. Tell me to stop, I said. She didn't. Tell me you don't still taste me in the quiet. She closed her eyes. Tell me you don't dream of me in colors your body won't forget. Her breath caught. I can't, she whispered. And that was all I needed. I pulled her into me, not to conquer but to claim. Her mouth opened beneath mine. The kiss was not sweet. It was savage in the way only reunion can be. Her fingers curled into my shirt like she was trying to hold onto the version of herself that had once said goodbye. And I let her. I let her tear it open. I let her take. Because love, with us, had never been about gentleness. It had always been a kind of ruin. And this time we weren't running from it. We were walking into it. Naked, willing, breathing, together.
The morning was ordinary. That's what undid me. Toast in the kitchen, steam rising from chipped mugs, the smell of rain clinging to the windows, Noah at the table, legs swinging beneath the chair, sketching something wild and toothy with 3 hearts and 7 eyes, and Lorenzo, leaning against the doorway, coffee in hand, sleeves rolled, watching like he couldn't believe he was allowed to be here. That was the part that made me ache, the stillness of it. The gentleness he wore now, not like a performance, but like a bruise he'd stopped hiding. There was no empire in his posture, no cold fire in his gaze, just a man, barefoot in a house he never thought would open for him again. I moved through the room quietly. My fingers brushed his as I passed. He caught them, held them a moment too long. You're still here, I whispered, not as a question, but as something between awe and disbelief. Are you surprised? Yes. He smiled. Small, crooked, honest. Are you afraid? No. I said, but I keep checking for the door. He stepped closer, touched my cheek, and tilted my chin just enough for our eyes to meet. Then I'll stay in the doorway until you stop looking. Outside, the rain softened. Noah hummed under his breath, oblivious to the weight we had both laid down in the night. The truth, the grief, the ache of loving someone who didn't come easy. I kissed Lorenzo, not with heat, but with peace. And when I pulled back, I knew. We were no longer surviving. We were choosing. Every day, every breath, every time his voice said my name like it was an oath made flesh. And when Noah ran up to him later that afternoon, mud on his knees, laughter in his chest, and called him Dad without hesitation, without fear, without needing to be asked, I didn't cry. I didn't need to, because my heart already knew. We had come home.
He called me Dad like he'd always known how. No ceremony, no pause. Just a word dropped into the space between stories, like it had always been mine to carry. And for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Not because I didn't want it, but because I did. So much it scared me. He was sitting in my lap, knees bruised, palms sticky from syrup and mischief. Amelia moved through the room, humming something low and old, her hair still damp from the shower, her skin wrapped in mourning. I watched her the way a man watches fire he used to run from, with reverence, with awe, with the ache of knowing he'd nearly lost it all. The boy looked up at me, eyes wide, hands animated as he explained the creature he was drawing. It had wings like his fears and armor like her. It smiled with teeth. I think he meant it to be me. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Amelia looked over from the sink, saw my stillness, and her smile faltered, just enough for me to know she understood. She dried her hands on a dish towel, walked to us, and kissed the top of his head, then mine. Soft, like grace. I wrapped an arm around her waist. This was never supposed to be mine. A woman like her, a child like him, a quiet house filled with breath and books, and lives not built on fear. But somehow, I'd become part of it, not because I deserved it, but because I refused to leave once I realized what I was without it. Redemption isn't loud. It doesn't come with thunder or applause. It comes with small hands gripping your fingers, with her voice saying your name like it's a fact, not a plea, with knowing you'd burn for them if asked, and rebuild from ash if you had to. Later, after the dishes and the stories and the light curled into the corners of the Amelia lay beside me. Her fingers traced the lines of my chest like she was still learning the language of my body. I caught her hand, kissed her wrist, whispered, "This life, it terrifies me." She smiled. Good. And that was it. That was us. A man who had learned how to stay, a woman who had dared to let him, and a boy who had never asked for perfect, only presence. So I stayed, and in staying, I became the kind of man he'd never have to run from. Thank you for staying until the last breath of this story. Your presence here means more than you know. If this journey stirred something, if a line, a look, a heartbeat made you feel less alone, I ask for one small thing. Let me know you were here. A like, a comment, a simple, I felt this. They tell the story it was worth telling. They remind me why I write with everything I have. And if you believe someone else might need this softness, this fire, share it. Whisper it into the noise. Together, we can scatter stories like seeds. And maybe, just maybe, grow something gentler in this world. You are always welcome here. Always.